And we are live. At least I am. How about you girls? Robin, Olivia?
Hello.
I'm live. Yep.
All right, so you were expecting some to tune into some cute chicks here. Instead, you got us. But we have the wisdom of the paralyzed ages. There's a cute chick. And I'll let everybody introduce themselves. First, I just want to say, hey, I'm Julianne Delara. I'm delighted to be filling in for when the girls couldn't make it today. And we've got a pretty exciting show. We're going to be talking about disaster preparedness. So, your tips and tricks you can put in the chat. You can tell us of any disasters that you still don't know how to fix. And we will use our aged wisdom to share with you and solve some of the problems. Actually, this group of four has some pretty amazing stories to tell from all of our unique experiences. But first, let me tell you about our sponsors. All right, mobility specialists and urology specialists. There they are, mobility professionals and urology professionals. Sorry, Don. The greatest folks in the world. They actually know and support our community, and so if you need anything DME wise or urological wise, call these guys. They're the best. So you know who I am, Julianne Delara, T12 incomplete from transverse myelitis almost 30 years ago. So going around, Olivia, you want to take it next?
Hi, I'm Olivia. I'm a T10 complete injury from a car versus pedestrian and I won accident about 18 years ago.
All right, Allie, chime in.
Sorry, I'm Allie. I'm the one with the technical difficulties as always. I am the current reigning Miss Wheelchair California as well as the first runner-up for Miss Wheelchair America 2026. And yeah, I have a multitude of issues that result in me using a wheelchair. I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, a rare manifestation of it, as well as a TBI, and many, many other things. We'll be here all day, though, if I explain it all. So yeah.
But we love her anyway. And Robin is our guest lecturer, our expert in disaster preparedness with some stories to tell. Robin, introduce yourself.
I'm Robin Worley, and I'm the founder of adapts.org, which is a portable transfer sling that was designed originally for use on an airplane, but now it's morphed into use anytime disaster strikes or an elevator is out or there's a need to get someplace to safety fast and maybe you can't take your wheelchair with you.
Yep, and a segue into Robin. Some of you guys have heard my stories when, because I travel a lot, and I always bring this bright yellow transfer sling with me for the airplane, and I can tell you my story how I use it on the airplane, but also because you're never on the first floor when you're staying at a hotel, and there have been several times when you hear the alarms and the fire engines are outside, and you don't know if it's going to be a false alarm or a real thing. So I grab the local able bodies and say, "This is the sling," and say, "This is the sling. I'm going to sit in it. You grab one end, you grab the other, and shove me down the stairs, okay?" And able bodies are very nice about it under those particular circumstances. So Robin will tell you more about that. I need to get the chat up so we can see what everybody's saying. And we go. So
Yeah, and I think
disaster.
go ahead.
No, disasters. Chime in.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say that I think probably the first question everybody asks when they see the sling is, why is it yellow? And there's a little bit of a delay here. And the answer to that is because I was a flight attendant before, which is why I felt the need for a tool for the crew to get people out in an emergency evacuation. And, typically when you have an emergency evacuation on an airplane, it's in low light conditions, either because it's nighttime or there's smoke in the cabin. And it's very difficult to see people who might need extra help. And that's the reason all the emergency equipment on the plane, like the oxygen masks or the the vests that you wear for a water landing are all bright yellow. So that's the reason we made it yellow.
And also, it causes people to ask questions because what I do when I get on the airplane is I take it out of its little package. This little package. This easily goes in my carry-on, and I spread it out like my chair here is pretending to be an airplane seat. I spread it out like that. People immediately are going, why are you doing that? Usually the flight attendants first. And I say, because I've been on planes before and I understand that in case of an emergency, the disabled passengers are the ones who are going to be last off the plane. And there was one flight
Mm.
where there were 17 disabled passengers on my flight. And I thought, this is not good. And then I found out about Robin, what she does. So, what I do when I get on the airplane, I put the yellow thing down. And then as people board, I say, hey, we're not going to have an emergency, but just in case we do, could you do me a favor? Because normally I'd be the last one off of this airplane, but if you just grab these two things, because I'm already sitting in it, right? If you just grab these two things
Mhm.
here, and you, sir, grab these two things here, find the chute and throw me down it, then you won't have to
Yep.
worry about me.
Yep.
And so far, nobody has said no.
I don't think they would. The reason this came about is because John Morris, and a lot of you might know him from wheelchairtravel.org, and he's flown probably, I think he's flown 1,000 flights now, pretty much by himself most of the time. He's a triple amputee, uses a power chair, and I don't know, 8 years ago, we knew each other from a frequent flyer group on Facebook, and he called me up and said, "Can I pick your flight attendant brain and ask you how I'm getting out of this airplane if there's an emergency?" And I said, "Well, how do you think you're getting out?" And he said, "I think I'm going to have to rely on the kindness of strangers or army crawl out of this airplane." And it just broke my heart. I felt like, there just has to be a better way to do this. And years ago, you'd sit on a blanket or something, but they don't have blankets on airplanes anymore unless you're in first class, and or even for short flights. And it's really hard to grab a blanket and carry somebody. You need a handle. You can't just roll up the edges and go any distance. So that was kind of the birth of the idea. But we actually were used on an actual evacuation. In fact, it was a woman at the Abilities Expo, Julianne, who bought it for her son who has CP. I think he was a teenager at the time, and they had an emergency landing at Dulles Airport in Washington D.C. And she and her husband grabbed him and got him out of the plane and down the slide with the sling. And when they got to the bottom, the flight attendant asked to borrow it to get an elderly lady out. So they went back into the cabin and brought the elderly lady out. So it was sort of an example to me where either the customer has their own sling like you do, and you take it with you on every flight and into hotel rooms and so on, and you're already on it, but also it simulated what it would be like if the flight attendant had to go to the overhead bin and get it out of the safety kit and help someone get out of the plane. So,
Hmm.
so
Yeah, is
yeah,
this
we
something
have
that is
that story.
normal? Like, do you already have these in, like, are airplanes buying these? Are these normal in airplanes? Because that's something that I don't even have the answer to, and I'd love to be able to answer that for people in the future because I get airline questions constantly.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, the airlines haven't purchased it yet. They're interested. I've talked to pretty much all the airlines. I do have some European airlines that have bought it, and they're on those flights. They know about it, and I can't say that there are so many people traveling with it that it's common to see. So far, I'm waiting for me to see one in the wild. I say,
That would be
someone
fun.
actually using it. But for the most
I'll let you
part,
know if
I
I see
think
one.
it's. Pardon?
I just said I'll let you know if I see one. I fly often.
Yeah, do. Yeah, take a picture when you do, and post it. But yeah, uh, I lost my train of thought there for a second, but the delay is kind of odd to work with. Um, anyway, yeah, another question.
Well,
Well, I mean,
ha-
not to completely derail, but totally on the note of your product, I think it's super cool, and I've heard a little bit about it from Julianne. But I can now announce I'm going to be flying next month to do an event with what's called High Country Adaptive Sports. So they're flying me out to test a bunch of
Okay.
different adaptive hiking and adventure equipment, but I haven't heard anything about the idea behind this, so I absolutely will mention it to them. But it just seems like it can be, like you said, for more than just airplanes and disaster preparedness. But now I've delved into the world of adventure and all of these different things that I'm doing. But the question I get oftentimes is, well, you can stand, which I can, so what happens to those of you who can't? And I have a hard time speaking on an experience that isn't mine, but I also want to be able to provide the adaptive equipment and resources for people who need them, because that's the entire point of my frame, because it's for all disabled people, not just for people in chairs. But yeah, super super cool concept, and it's nice to know that it's something that's available for a variety of uses, because like you said, it's pretty simple. It's sitting right next to Julianne. It's slap it down on a chair, grab these handles, and go, which is, as straightforward as I think it can possibly get. So I love the
Yeah.
innovation for safety, because there's really not a lot of products for disaster preparedness out there. And I think a lot of people in California specifically know that, all too well, especially when you're near a fault line or dealing with the ocean being angry. It can be terrifying. So yeah, that's another thing that comes up a lot in conversation for me is, what do I do at the top of the stairs and how do I XYZ? So that's really awesome to hear that you're doing that.
plus you're
Yeah, there's a
certified.
video. There's a video on the YouTube channel of a guy who had an accident, became quadriplegic, and his buddies took him back to one of his favorite hiking places. So it shows him using adapts to hike through the forest to get to, one of his the campgrounds that they used. And I sort of felt like, well, in the time it takes to try to get these onboard airplanes, there are so many other uses, and it's probably best for each person to have their own and use it where they need it. Like you guys go into hotels all the time. How many times do you get there and the pool lift isn't working? Julianne, you just had a story about that, didn't you? I
Every
know.
single
You
time.
know,
Every single time. Yeah, and I have used it to get, of course, getting into the pool, not a problem. I have used it to have somebody lift, two people lift me out of the pool
yeah,
before I got a pool lift here and at a hotel. Yeah,
yeah. So it dries pretty fast, and you just sponge it off. You don't need to put it in a washing machine. Just soapy sponge cleans it, and weighs less than a pound. So, but I'm constantly
Robin,
getting messages from people about how they've used it, and so I try to post all the photographs I get when they tell me stories.
when you were a flight attendant, did you ever have to get a disabled passenger off of an airplane?
No, I've never, knockwood, I've never been part of an emergency evacuation before. So, but I'm prepared if I ever am.
Okay, new idea. A calendar girls with all the different ways you can use the adapt sling.
Oh, I love it.
That's
And
funny
there
you
are
say
Swim,
at
that.
least
I've
swim during
twelve
the
actually never made
deployed.
pool,
a calendar.
That is
Yeah,
a great
that's really funny that
idea.
you say that. I'm doing two calendars. One of my partner, um, he he has been personally requested to do a calendar of him doing silly poses, so we're doing that. But then I also got a request to do a Miss Wheelchair calendar, so who knows? Maybe the sling will pop up in a picture somewhere.
you can have it
How
like
fun.
have an atelier create a dress for you out of the adapt sling, and then it comes off and it becomes a device.
Cool.
Hadn't thought
It
of that
has
one
been
yet.
known to morph.
What are some of the
Yeah.
strangest ways you've seen it used, Robin?
Strange. Oh, gee, I don't know. Well, this is a strange one. At one of the expos, it was in Chicago, I had a guy come up and pull me aside and say, I have a suggestion to make. And I'm like, okay. And he said, why don't you market this to the funeral industry? And he said the reason is because a lot of people collapse and die in bathrooms and they can't get the stretcher from the funeral home into the bathroom. So he said, could you make it out of a more sedate color instead of bright yellow for that industry? And I said, if you want to buy enough of them, you can have it any color you want. So that was a little strange. But yeah, I haven't
That's
gotten
a
anything more than the usual mainstream pictures of people, using it on mostly on airplanes or trains or, hiking and getting out of a lazy boy chair. One woman, her
okay.
family took her on one of the ALS walks, so she was able to participate in that in her wheelchair.
That's
So,
nice.
mhm.
All right, so Allie's doing calendars. Robin is
Okay.
going to do an adapts yellow sling calendar, and Olivia's going to come up with some of the more creative ways we can use this. Uh,
What are you going to do?
what am I going to do?
Oh, yeah. What is Julian gonna do?
What
Yeah.
am I
What's
going
your
to do?
project?
What's my project? Well, we should
Like she has.
probably talk. What?
No, I was just gonna say. I feel like you have a gazillion and one projects. That just feel like how are you gonna add one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually do. But in going back to disaster preparedness, we did a while back. We did a group on this about just going around the room. Nobody was prepared that we were going to be talking about this, and it was, what do you have on you or in your car? I don't know if you were there, Olivia.
Yeah.
Um, if if there was earthquake, fire, whatever, and you were in this room, we were all in this room, and we couldn't leave for 3 days. What do you have enough stuff on you to be able to survive under these circumstances? So immediately my head went to meds, catheters, suppositories, gloves, and I'm assuming that as a group we'd figure out food and water or not, and shelter. But I didn't have enough meds on me. I don't travel with enough meds on me to be able to even last 24 hours without starting to freak out a little bit.
Well, you're down in
So
California and LA. Do you have a go kit for earthquakes put together, like a backpack you can grab and go?
I do now since the fires. Yeah,
Yeah.
I just I keep it. Birth certificates, pink slips, passports, and
Oh, yeah.
meds.
Yep.
That's pretty much what my go kit is. But I don't typically keep it in the car. I keep it in the house. So I should probably have one in the car
Yeah, I
as
have
well.
two. When I
I
What
lived
do
in
you
San
like?
Francisco, I always had two, one in the house and one in the trunk of the car.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I grew up in the Central Valley of California, and I was friends with quite a few people. Believe it or not, that were like in the doomsday prepper world of things, and I learned a lot very quickly in my upbringing about disaster preparedness, but also just like anything can happen at any time. I mean, bags are lost, so make sure you don't put all your cash in one bag. If you got to check on in a carry on, sorry, check in a carry on, make sure you split your things up. Like I just have that ingrained in how I behave. So I kind of forget that some people don't have all of those things. But like our vehicle in the top roof rack, Julian, there's a full blown toolkit in there. And I don't mean like a toolkit you buy where it's smaller version of tools. I mean, like we have everything in there, full wheelchair toolkit, water, medicine, pretty much everything. But I think that also comes from being homeless up until a year ago. So I just like in every scenario have probably everything I need and everything anyone else around me could need. But yeah, I kind of forget that that's not the go-to or the norm.
Did you
Yeah,
see Bobby's message about the 35 wine bottles?
I'm going to your house, Bobby.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, experience is your best teacher. So the more times you've been exposed to not having what you need at that moment, the more your brain kind of adheres to like, oh, I have to remember for every time I leave, I need X, Y, and Z. Like I have dry things in the car, like a change of clothes, chucks, things that don't get really weathered by the heat because we live in northern, so we have a lot of heat here. but I do have like stuff ready by my door and like a cold bag because I do have insulins. And because I work in a pharmacy and I was watching what happened to people after the fires in the Palisades and Pasadena, Altadena, all these other areas in the Southern California area. And when it comes to people with us who have more pain than most, who take opiates or controlled meds, they're not going to they'll come up with an emergency process after the fact, but I always remind people, like, even if you're not taking your pain meds regularly, like, reorder them at the refill date because you don't know when you're going to need an extra month's supply if you're not going to have access to these kinds of things. My mother's on, morphine, and thankfully we had kept extras because we refilled on time. But if you take medications and you don't take them refill them on time, it's good to have about a month or two backup just in case. Um, but yeah, it's again, experience is your best teacher, and sadly, it's sometimes you're in the mix of it. Like, I work in the Miracle Mile area close to La Cienega and Wilshire. So if you're ever in the area and you need cathing supplies, I now keep a full like boatload of supplies in my office because I was caught without a catheter. I was dysreflexic. I went to the ER and they were like, "Well, you're not a priority." I'm like, "My blood pressure's going through the roof." Like, I didn't know what to do. I MacGyvered the whole thing. I yanked my catheter out. I cleaned it as best as I could with alcohol and hot water and kind of forced it to clear itself. And when you have to do things to keep yourself alive, you do it. But now I
Right.
keep good supplies. So if you're ever in the area of Southern California near me and you need things, please come by.
Yeah, it's a good
I don't know
point
if you
about
guys caught the question that Sean had. He wanted to know what we all keep in our emergency kits.
Wine, like Bobby.
that's a no-brainer for sure, at least in my life. Um, yeah. Well, because I travel so much, I've got my carry-on, and so the carry-on has the meds, a day's worth of catheters, and bowel program things and snacks. But Olivia's right. You can't just keep them in the car. Your suppositories are not going to do really well kept in a car, year round. So it having a cold bag does make sense, Olivia. I never would have thought of that.
But also, some vehicles have cold storage in their trunks. If you like, there's usually some vehicles in their trunks that have a hatch that opens. And it's for groceries, for cold items, but it might be a place to put things that, like, obviously, like, not things that are meant to be cold, but things that could be affected easily by heat, but could be
Hmm.
stored in a dry, cooler area. But yeah, I keep meds, cathing supplies, at least 2 to 3 days worth, a bunch of snacks. Um, I think, what do I do? I kind of look at in a week, what do I do? I do travel a lot to go to work. So I'm like, what would I need if I got stuck anywhere, like in a vehicle that broke down? What would I do? I always have a little bit of water, some kind of hand sanitizer, because if you do need to change any kind of like cathing, you know, paraphernalia you want. Julian was my hero growing up. I mean, she had like, always had like a little spray bottle of alcohol ready to go at any given moment. So now I carry spray bottle, like mini alcohol bottles. Like, you can go to these little like, sites like Shein and Temu, even though with tariffs going crazy, but you can buy like travel accessories, like mini spray bottles and pump bottles, and refill your own things that are ready to go at a moment's notice. And they're not huge to carry. We carry so much stuff on a regular basis.
Yeah, we
So
sure do.
finding more portable
Yeah.
options is really nice.
And so
Well,
do
I
you change things out periodically? So it's always like 90 days you change it out again or?
I kind of go quarterly.
Mhm.
I think I'm the same way. I think honestly, to be so real, we can all say, "Oh, I do it every 3 months," or "Make sure you do this at this amount of time." But we have so many things to keep track of. We're not realistically keeping it on a timeline. So anytime I talk about it with other people, honestly, is when I go, "Oh yeah, I should probably do that," and it reminds me to go, "Okay, it's time to switch things out," or it's time to make sure that backup set of medication gets rotated in now. That way, the newer prescription that I'm getting is now my emergency prescription because they do lose potency over time for a lot of different kinds of prescription medications. So yeah, I mean,
You have to
we
rotate your
can
inventory.
all day long, but yeah.
Yeah.
Put a calendar reminder, every quarter on the first April, what, October, March, whatever. A calendar reminder, time to look at your supplies and rotate your stock.
On that adapts calendar.
There you go.
Yeah,
When you see
yeah.
Julian in the bathing suit, it's time to change.
Uh, well,
Yeah,
Dan
that's
was
kind of,
Dan was a
yeah,
doomsday prepper.
we
So
do
I
have
have all kinds of stuff in the closet that that I've got dry food and gallons of water that have to be changed out and all that stuff. But the thing is, he went and died on me without telling me how to use all this stuff. So when the
oh,
fires hit Camarillo, I had this big expensive machine where you put the one end into the swimming pool and then you can put the fire out all around your house. I didn't know how to use it. Come to find out, there was no gas or oil in it, so it wouldn't have worked anyway. But so along those same lines, we should probably do a practice with our go bags and make sure we know how to use all this stuff. But if anybody needs dried food, I've got cans and cans of it.
well, plus those vacuum sealers are great. You know, you can vacuum seal a lot of stuff and keep things fresh for a long time in the food department, at least. But yeah, we have a really good video that my little social media person put together about she packed a go bag for her grandma who uses a wheelchair. And so she did a really cute little intro, and it's individual what each person, that particular person needs. Maybe somebody else won't, but yeah, people in the chat are saying, yeah, make a list, and get a big backpack and have it ready to go in a place that you can grab it and get out. The wildfires, especially in California, my friends that were involved in that, I mean, they had literally seconds to get out. Like, grab your cats and your computer and get out, you know.
Yeah, I had about an hour. That was it. And
Mm,
yeah, the cats and the bunnies and food for the cats and the bunnies, passports, birth certificates. That's all I remembered,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah, no, that's at least copies of all those things, because at least with the numbers and so on, you can get replacements. Someone just said, do you guys keep a list of important phone numbers? Yeah, all that stuff. Your phone. You can't rely necessarily on your phone being charged up and ready to go. You need to have it written down on paper.
Oh crap, I would be so dead. Don't have any phone numbers memorized or written down.
I don't either. You have to write them down. Yeah, it's a good point.
You know. So, what did they tell you at Cedar Sinai, Olivia, about disaster prep?
Well, since we are a trauma center, we are obliged and expected to have a cachet for any disaster that might happen in Southern California. Like when you have accidents like ours, you go to trauma centers like ours. And because we are a larger one, like I was telling you all before the chat started, we have a whole warehouse of medications for nuclear fallout. We have to be prepared to handle the public and masses. Obviously you'll be triaged and prioritized, but we have so many things. Like we have things that most hospitals don't carry, just to make sure that we're like, I think there's a checkoff list. I'm not sure if it's from the government, a federal list, but we're expected to have more than most hospitals for any kind of disaster. I was just trying to look up on LA because at the Abilities Expo, they had an emergency preparedness booth, and LA does have an actual website where you can download and print preparedness steps for tsunamis, for earthquakes, for fires, anything you can imagine. And it gives you like maps and lists where you can put addresses where you're going to be. Like, where are you going to be if you're not here? Do you have a designation point so someone can find you at some point if telecommunications go down? Um, I also, don't laugh, I just bought the newest version of the Thomas Brothers Guide, and because they still make them for LA and Orange County. And I was teaching my niece and nephew how to read maps, but we're so used to just opening up our phones and finding a map, app and
Yeah.
whatnot. But I'm old school. I use the Promise Brothers guide for decades. But it's good to have maps with you. I do keep that with my emergency kit. Um, yes, but at the hospital, we have a full policy and procedures set up for any major disaster. And we practice diligently. I mean, I don't even work with the patients or the public anymore, but I'm still expected to know what to do. What is my role? What is my obligation? And how do we help? And who's our designated? What is the chain of events and chain of command when a disaster strikes? We're still expected to know these things as a hospital, so we work better as a team. But most hospitals, you know, have that in their playbooks. So, yeah, we're always about
And
emergency preparedness.
my question is, like, for those of you that use wheelchairs and need to get to a shelter, for example, do you know if the closest shelter to you can accommodate wheelchairs? And, do they have a lift, or do they have, what do they have, a wheelchair accessible bathroom? You never know where the shelter is going to be. It could be a bank, it could
Yeah.
be a school. I mean, and you may not
Right.
know if the one closest to you is available either.
Plug the
Something
Adaptus.
else that was oh, so go on. Sorry.
No, I just said plug the Adaptus.
Yeah. Something they do have at emergency preparedness booths are these like large 8.5 by 11 laminated sheets that are green or red that you can put in your windows if you happen to be in a building or an apartment or a hotel. So you can put that in your window and they know if they scan the windows that there is someone in there and yes, I need help or no, I'm okay, but I'm here. And like where I work, it's a high rise. So we are, they know I'm there. I've informed my building manager that I'm in a wheelchair. The hospital mostly has refuge spaces because you're going to have to wait for someone to come and get you because obviously the elevators won't be working. And that's when the adapt sling comes in.
Yeah. Yeah, I was
So
just going
I
to
think,
say we had a campaign called the Why Wait campaign. Why wait at the elevator when other people can get you down the stairs?
right. But I like someone in the chat said, my bag's full of hope. I'm like, yes, we need hope in
Yeah.
our bags.
You just got
You
to
just
add other things.
reminded.
It can't just be hope.
Go ahead, Helen.
No, I was just making. I was following the joke. I said you got to have a little bit more than hope. You got to start adding to the bag. You know.
Well, when I fell out of my wheelchair in the front yard here a couple of years back, trying to trim trees from my wheelchair. So yeah, I fell, and it was one of those where you go, okay, no, don't even try to get up. This one, no, you're not gonna bounce back from this one. So called 911. I have a fire station nearby. The ambulance, the fire truck, everybody was over here right away, and they didn't have it because I was on the lawn and at an angle. Their gurney sort of situation was not going to work. So Dan brought out the adapt sling, and they were really interested in that. And then, of course, they, oh, well, we can't use that because it's not, federally approved. We'd have to ask our manager if we can use this. I said, just use it and get me into. Yeah, I give you approval. I will not sue you, but please use this. Get me into the ambulance and get me off of the lawn because my hip is shattered. I know it is, and it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Remember when you did that?
yeah, sometimes you think the guys that are really prepared to help you are not prepared to help you.
Yeah. There was a lady who was a customer who had a seizure disorder, and she fairly frequently would have seizures in her, she'd be upstairs in her bedroom, and it was a really tight hallway at the top of the stairs, and they couldn't get the gurney around the corner. So she used it, and they got to know her, because the EMS would show up and they'd say, "Oh, yeah, you're the lady with the yellow sling." So they'd use it to get her down the stairs until they could get her to a spot where they could put her on the gurney.
Well, Allie, you're
Or
always doing
that's my
these.
niece in the background. Sorry.
Allie, when you're doing these wild ass outdoor adventure things that you've been doing, because that's Allie's platform as Miss Wheelchair
Yeah.
California is exciting outdoor adventure. And you've been doing some crazy ass stuff. Are you ever thinking about what happens if I mess up, fall?
I mean, I'll be completely honest with you. I fall in a weird category, and this is my own kryptonite, and I'm working on it, right? However, um, it's very hard to advocate for myself when I walk at home. So, in very niche situations, yes, I do prepare the team, especially when I'm in a scenario where I could pass out or I could dislocate a hip and then I have to all of a sudden stop what I'm doing and put it back. I warn people of the type or the nature of my disability, but I'm very rarely preparing them to help me out of an emergency because I always tell people in a zombie apocalypse, I'm sure I could figure out how to run. However, probably not walking for a while after that. So it's all about like preserving the future of the structural integrity of my body, which is already, made up of a bag of jello, and, Lincoln Logs. But yeah, it's an intriguing concept, if you will. And I've been mulling the concept over of how do I tell these guys when I go to this event coming up, where I'm trying out something like 10 different types of adaptive equipment, how to get me out if for some reason I'm unable to do it myself. Because the reality is, I have like a either I can run in a zombie apocalypse situation, or I've passed out or had a cataplexy attack to where my entire body's not moving, including my facial muscles, and I just look like a sad, scary girl who's only breathing. Or I've lost the ability to verbally communicate, and like all of these different sectors of what my body could do to me that day. And so it's hard to niche down like, okay, here's what you do. So knowing that like the sling exists, things like that are super cool, especially since I'm going into the bottom of the Grand Canyon. And that's terrifying. I really don't want to be stuck at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to imagine like what a catch-all would be, um, in that kind of situation. Other than, yeah, I guess the sling would be a good option to carry around and brief people on, especially when I go skydiving coming up soon. I'll have to get a little bit more creative for the scuba diving adventure in the ocean, but
Mhm.
yeah, good things to mull over.
Well, when you do Life Rolls On, don't they have like um, an ambulance there or medical professionals, somebody like that?
For the surfing, is that what you're referring to? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know like a lot of the extreme sports events that I go to absolutely will have some kind of EMT or at least first aid person there that can at least facilitate getting someone on site that has knowledge of disabilities in general or getting me to a hospital, trauma, etc. But I think that putting myself in precarious situations is raising a lot of questions for a lot of people, and that's all I could ask for. I know that I have the ability, especially with my fiance Eric, who can quite literally just carry me out of any precarious situation if I needed him um, to risk those things and put myself in the dangerous, precarious spot and say, hey, well, what if I were paralyzed, or what if I were mute, or what if I were completely deaf? And I think I've honestly made a lot of people think a lot about, oh, what would we do? Because we have a lot of organizations that have adaptive sports and experiences opened up, and you have all these sign up sheets and waivers and XYZ, and that protects you from liability, but it's not going to protect you from saving a life in a situation where you have to think on a dime, what am I going to do? How do I help this person? If they can't talk to you, what do you do? So, yeah, I think that this is something that needs to be talked about more, that's for sure. I think that's an understatement in our community, but yeah, things to think
Well,
about.
and to piggyback on that, knowing how to tell someone how to help you,
Mm.
that's one of the biggest things that we discuss in our community is like people try to help you and they end up making it harder or more difficult for you to do what you need to do. And knowing your own body and knowing your own abilities, knowing what's more painful, where you're more susceptible to injury, being able to direct someone, and keeping an emergency card. Like I know Sean talks about the autonomic dysreflexia cards and the Christopher Reeve website and all the cards they offer, the downloadable ones, but definitely knowing how to tell someone how to help you is a good thing. And I like how Bobby talks about how him and his wife have drills. They've practiced like what to do. It's a good thing to practice. And sometimes I'm just a hoarder and I carry a bunch of paper on my person. Like if anything happens, like what do they say in your phone? They put ice. That should be your in case of emergency, like contact. So even
Maybe
if your
we
phone
want to.
is locked,
Maybe we
it's
should call
called
it something
ice.
different now.
I know, right? In case of my emergency.
Emergency
Yeah.
contact.
But I wanted to
I
show
think there's
really quick.
actually a
So
feature on the
it's
iPhones
it's
for that where you can like swipe over, right?
I think so. Like you can
Yeah.
do emergency phone calls. But I wanted to show really quick. So I like to go out a lot to events and concerts, and I kind of have a smaller to go bag just in case. But I took this old makeup bag and I just figured like what do I need for a catheter emergency? So there's like a catheter, like portable like lubricating jelly,
Indicating jelly,
alcohol,
alcohol.
gloves. I have those doggy
I have
bags because they're great to throw trash in. You don't know when you need a trash can, and we need it more often than others. But syringes and whatnot, and one big chuck like fold into like a little square. But
yeah.
and your lifestyle will dictate, a little bit of what you need for your go bag and what your emergency. Like Julianne travels all over the world, you know, and Allie is traveling so much, but is also adventurous. And Robin has this incredible knowledge of traveling on an airplane. So knowing how to disseminate the information that and together our wealth of knowledge will help others in a more, cumulative way.
Yeah, and you have ghosts haunting you, crawling up the back
Yes.
of your head.
We love Halloween and we celebrate all year long.
Bobby asked a good question. Where can we get the sling? So, what's the website, Robin?
It's adapts, ADAPTS.org, O-R-G.
There it is.
Yeah, adapts.org.
Yay.
Yeah, we've got videos on the website. We've got links to all of our social media. We've got pictures in the gallery and just a history of how it all got started. And, there's lots of information. And there's a resource tab too for downloading checklists for disaster preparedness.
Oh, that's helpful.
Hmm. Yeah.
Other
If you
than the fire, go ahead.
scroll down to the footer on the website, and there's all the whole menu is there for linking to information.
So, other than having ghosts crawl up the back of your head, Olivia, have you ever been in an emergency situation?
Gosh. Only at work, but nothing like an accident or um, nothing necessitating emergency like escaping or trying to find shelter. But it's always in the back of my mind, and sometimes I'm just like subsided to work being like I'm just gonna stay in my office. Like, there's nowhere I can go. I have everything I need in my office. I have food, I have water, I have supplies, and I'm on the top floor, so I can't just like casually stroll out. Like imagine if we could just connect a bunch of adapts to make one big slide.
There you go.
you know Find a way to connect them and like bring out the adapts.
Hmm.
Yeah, I
Honestly,
think
now
places like
knowing that they
hotels.
work, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say like hotels and high rises, and when where they have the fire extinguisher, they should have one on the wall there. But I think all the adaptive rooms in hotels should have one. You know,
Absolutely.
yeah.
I was just saying that knowing now that it's something that dries quickly and you can use in water, it would have come in handy a few years back. I was not a full time chair user yet, but things like this have sure contributed to me being a full time chair user. I was in a jet ski accident and I was in a part of a lake where it was supposed to be ski only. And I think that people misinterpreted ski as tug ski instead of jet ski, and it's meant for smaller motor vehicles like jet skis. But a boat came through pulling a skier and got way too close to us and panicked. And when you're someone who's renting a boat and you don't typically drive them, you don't realize how to stop them quickly. So he got within about 5 feet of us, and he was going likely 45 to 50 miles an hour, and much too fast, first of all. The skier fell off, and that tugs a little, but not a lot. And the wave that they created that came up next to our jet ski hit the jet ski so hard. Now, granted, not the boat, just the water, thank God, that it kicked the jet ski around 180 degrees and bounced so hard that the person I was holding on to driving the jet ski was sturdy enough holding on. When I bounced, I went up in the air and I lost contact with one hand. My right side went down and my head hit the side of the ski. And then as it was spinning, it shot me off the ski the length of a football field, and I skipped like a rock, head to tail. And it was like the fastest impact I've ever had on that kind of surface. And if you don't know, whenever you hit water going that fast, it's like hitting concrete. So when I hit the water, it was the first time I had such a, intense multi dislocation in my body. So hips, knees, ankles, the little toes of my, or little joints in my toes, fingers, you name it, everything was completely out of socket and I couldn't move. Thank God for my life jacket. And I was able to grab one thing at a time and put myself back together. And at the time, I was barely but strong enough to get back on that jet ski. Had I not had that ability, I mean, if that happened to me today, I would just be floating out there hoping that someone would come turn me over. So knowing that things like that exist, you can throw it in the water, scoop it underneath someone, and get them out. Like that's, you know, essential. And I don't exactly think that, many people are going jet skiing in a extremely unsafe lake. However, I wouldn't put it past people like me, and I put myself in, again, many, many, many precarious situations. So it's good to know that things like this are out there.
But I imagine that's also safer instead of someone picking you up limb by limb, and having a more steady, static surface. So you're not
Yeah.
more dislocated. We don't want to break Allie anymore.
Yeah, and someone had actually now that you say that, it's funny. They grabbed onto the back of my life jacket, which was too big for me. And if you know anything about a poorly fitting life jacket, it just went all the way up here and
Yeah.
was pulling on my head as they pulled me up out of the water and onto the skis. So
Goodness
yeah, I
gracious.
just put myself back together. We are, you know, taking parts again.
It seems like when people try to help you, like when I fall out of my chair, they always want to grab your arms. And I just have learned to say, in my case, my arms are my legs. So when you grab my arms, you paralyze me. So let me work with my arms, and then you can like grab me under the knees, and we can get back into the chair. So somehow saying my arms or my legs seems to get through it a really quick, because it's something you have to communicate very quickly, because when you're bleeding out and they're going like this, and then I really can't move. So it's, yeah, I guess what we've come to is being ready, being prepared, rehearsing, knowing what you're going to do in various situations. um,
Knowing how to direct your care, where you're going to go, and knowing what you need for your daily living. I mean, plan for a good 3 days. We even buy MREs sometimes from the naval surplus stores,
Mhm.
army surplus, you know.
I used to love those as a kid. My dad was in the Air Force and he'd bring them home from a trip, and my sister and I thought that was like really, a great picnic.
We did too.
Yeah.
Dried cookie bars and powdered eggs somehow.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It was a treat. And my dad's like, ew.
well, Joseph Conrad wrote Catch 22, if I remember correctly. Anyway, in Catch 22, he referred to MREs, meals ready to eat, as meals refusing to exit because they constipated the guys in the bathroom.
Oh, and you know what? Life straws. Life straws are great to have in your emergency supplies
What's a life
because they
straw?
help. So they're devices. They're like long tubes, and they have filters inside, so you can drink water safely if you get it from a contaminated source. Obviously, if it's something like the
Ooh.
fires, you don't want to risk the chemical exposure. But if you're near a creek, and like you have like animal feces and all kinds of bacteria that you're not aware of, you can use them for emergency drinking. It's like paraphernalia. But if you look up life straw, uh, You can find it
Yeah.
on Amazon, I think.
Cool.
And there's also bottles and stuff if you can't, because a lot of people were talking about like accessibility and stuff. A straw itself, when you're getting down, you got to also have a cup and scoop the water. And how am I going to get to the water and things like that? I have a bottle that I got from REI. I don't know the brand, to be completely honest with you. I wish I would have known. But it's a bottle in itself where you scoop it up, and the straw inside of the bottle is the filter. And it takes a while to come through, but then it's completely clean drinking water, and it filters out everything. So I was told you could even use it in an event of a fire. If there's ash in the water, you can still scoop that water and it'll filter all of it out. How much of that is true, I cannot speak to because I've never had to do it. But we had that whenever we were homeless as like our number one emergency thing that we had with us, because water is essential and you can live without food for a while, but you need to make sure that you at least have water.
Wow, these are some great gadgets to have in a go kit. You know, it'd be great to go one stop shopping someplace to find things like that. The sling, I had for a while a solar charger for my phone,
Yeah.
and it was just a little, about the size of a Mophie battery, and but you could charge it solar and then charge your phone.
That
Well,
sounds
I feel
great.
like maybe you should definitely get a hold of REI, because I know they're always looking to have products that are inclusive. And I feel like the adapts is something that they would definitely want to have in their store. So, yeah, I mean, talk about a one stop shop. There's definitely a whole
Mhm.
lot there. And they're very, bike and adventure and hiking focused, but that also is what our lives would look like if we were in a full tilt disaster for our area. So, yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I know a long time ago when Aaron Baker did the Death Valley walk with his walker, he had solar power panels that were portable, so he could power, his devices and whatever he needed power for. But I think those are great too. Just they do have some smaller portable solar panels, because if you have a power chair or if you need a ventilator or anything electrical for yourself, it's great to have.
Cool. Well, I think we're getting more ideas of where we should be selling the Adapt Sling, huh? Maybe the survival websites need it. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
Allie's friends in the Central Valley, the
You should
Doomsday
market
Prep.
them to REI.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've made it an hour, folks. Any more questions? Anything anybody wants to? Does your niece want to say anything?
She's shy. She just wants to share her ghost.
Mhm.
I know you like it.
So do we.
Yeah,
They
it's
said they
pretty
liked it
good.
too, baby.
Yeah, we're glad you're here. All right. Well, if you put our sponsors back up on the screen there, Sean. Yeah. Ooh, quick there, boy. All right. Mobility professionals, urology professionals. Dean McCabe works for them, and they're so helpful to our whole community. So if you need anything DME wise, urological wise, give them a call. They're here in Southern California, and well, this has been really interesting. Avi says, riding along the beach, I always see people parked with their solar panels next to their vehicles. Yeah, Dan had some portable solar panels too. Never used them,
But
but
thank you for
yeah.
everyone in the chat, and thank you for inviting me, and thank you for everyone that came to be part of the Wheel Girl Talk.
Oh, nice. All right, we have a new
Yeah.
name now.
Okay.
And
It was
Robin,
fun to meet you all. Thank you so much for inviting me.
and
Thank you for
congratulations,
sharing.
Allie. All right,
Thank
guys,
you.
we'll be
Yeah,
doing
stay tuned. I'll be posting all kinds of things in the coming weeks. So see you guys
We
there.
can't wait.
Oh, that's right. You're doing a fundraiser, aren't you?
I am doing a fundraiser. I've got two fundraisers rolling. Don't let it be too confusing. But yeah, if you roll over to my page on Instagram, I'm just Allie.Corvin, three letters for my first name, ALY.CORVIN. And in that link, you will find my campaign fundraiser so that we can have enough money to do all of the wonderful things that we are posting about and reach out to all of the wonderful companies I am, working with. And then I also have a medical fundraiser. Yay me! Just like everyone else, I do not have the means to take care of my health. Yay! So the lovely van that Julianne donated to me has 6 lights on the dash, and she's going to need some help. And I don't even have a wheelchair that fits me, so we're chugging along. But yeah, if you want to check anything out, head over to that page. All the information's there.
Say it again, Ellie. What was it
My
on
Instagram,
Instagram?
easiest place to find it, and it's ALY.COR, V as in Victor, IN as in Nancy.
Okay. Found you.
Yay!
And everybody should have a ghost over their shoulder, I think.
Next show,
Yay!
next show.
Next show, Halloween show. All right. Thanks, everybody.
See
Thanks,
ya.
everyone.
Bye.